and it seemed like they were disappointed. It almost felt like they were treating black people as like pets. What's interesting is I had I used to be head of President BYU Democrats when I was at BYU, and when I was at BYU, I guess I still am. I'm just horrible at graduating. But and the weird thing about it was, when I stopped identifying with really either political party, I just said, I'm going to do my own thing, and kind of went on a soul-searching journey to figure out my thoughts in the world, which you're supposed to do, by the way, when you're in your early 20s. Like,
it's called Andrew Yang's Forward Party.
Yes. No, seriously, though.
Cool.
Logos
bad
at some point.
I can't endorse it
Hey,
yet.
I like it.
But when I started saying some things I disagreed with on the left publicly, the people who were on my side before started going after me pretty hard. This is really before I would even saying controversial things online. I was just like suggesting that certain far left means of equality were not productive.
Yeah.
They were getting really, really, really upset. More upset with me than they were with the straight white men. I think because I was talking out of line. And it seemed like they were disappointed. It almost felt like they were treating black people as like pets. You have to think this way.
Chelsea how
Handler,
dare
right?
you be somebody who says something outside of what they want said, right?
It's the white savior complex. It's we're saving you.
Right.
How dare you speak?
We're
here condescending to thine level.
You had 50 Cent, right, who was like, he made the joke, I might vote for Trump because I don't want to give 25 cents. He's making a joke. And then Chelsea Handler goes on and goes, I had to explain to him that he can't vote for Trump because he's black. And everyone's like, what? And then Nicki Minaj is like, hey, yeah, look, I don't want to take because I'm a little sketched out. Some things are, and people are like, you've got it. How dare you mislead your audience? She's just saying, yeah, but the narrative's changed so many times. I don't know if I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And they were like, how dare you? You're not allowed to say it. You have to just say what we want. And I mean, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican, but I don't want to be I'm not just going to follow someone blindly because you tell me to. I don't care if it's the Pope. I don't care if it's the prophet. I don't care if it's Rachel Maddow. I'm not just going to follow someone blindly. You know what I mean? I'm going to look into something.
I'd follow Chris to the gym. He's yoked.
I would,
but you're not being blind in that situation because he's jacked.
Oh yeah, because he's jacked, right?
There's as much religion in bodybuilding as there is anywhere.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But I'm gonna use my brain and I'm gonna work things out myself. And I don't know. What I saw and witnessed with the far left showed me just that. There's an original sin, but there's also the adopted sin, and I'm a Babylonian by adoption now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly, because you're part of the power structure, and you're supporting the power structure that they've set up, right?
By just saying I want to think for myself.
Yeah,
and again, it's weird. It's weird.
Well, let me put into one sentence, and I want to toss it to Chris. I just realized, oftentimes during our podcast, I'm able to put into one sentence or a phrase what I've been feeling, and by articulating it's a little bit cathartic, because I feel like, okay, I finally was able to explain it. I finally realized why this has been causing me angst. I feel like currently, and even over the past 10 years, there's been more room for my individuality, more appreciation for my individuality, and more room for individual expression and interpretation of faith. There's just been more room for individuality within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints than there has been outside of it. Would you say that's a fair statement? Go. Whoever wants to take it. Chris, hit it.
Well, I mean, I would say this. You guys have me on your podcast. I've put the gambit out to those other podcasters several times. I might be shadow banned on their Facebooks or something, so they're not seeing that I'm saying, hey, you guys said that you'd like somebody to come on to dissent. I think I showed him the thing. I said, I'm your Huckleberry, and they didn't.
Lindsay Hansen Park.
No, I said that to Delynn and Larson, who were calling out for if we're getting too in the weeds about politics and that sort of stuff. Larson knows me. Delynn might not. I've been around Delynn, but Larson knows me. But I told them I will come on and give an opposing view to the stuff that you guys are talking about, because basically, if you look at any sort of the thing that they start going into. Just this last week, I don't know how much you guys watch them or not. You probably avoid it, but I watch it just to see what they're saying. And most of it is they'll go into diatribes that the church should do this and this and this. You know, there's all these shoulds in their stuff. First, they're tear it all down with the extremely hard positivism. You know, like we gotta tear it down on every single level by just being hardcore empiricists. But then as soon as they get into their shoulds, they start getting wonky themselves.
Yeah.
But they basically say that the Mormon Church should just completely become, I guess, whatever their democratic socialist ideas should be, and as they laid out, or Delaney went on and said Richard Bushman should come on and basically have a struggle session on his thing. But I tell them, like, I will come on. You guys have me on in 2 seconds. You didn't vet me very hard. You saw me talking some of their stuff, but they're not.
What, you got like a gun on you or something?
Yeah.
What are you saying?
I mean, he did. I mean, we talked back and forth. He saw me on Jonathan Streeter, but like, you know, he's having me on, and you guys are having me on without even knowing very much what I'm going to say beforehand. They're dodging, you know. That's a bit to what.
They dodge all the time. Like, John DeLynn created that whole narrative of being afraid of us because of an internet meme, like, which is literally the hilarious part is he broke the Karen law of San Francisco. Had he actually called the cops on Kwaku for having made an internet meme, he would have been violating California law, saying you cannot call the cops on a minority for doing a daily activity, or else you are guilty of a hate crime. So it's a good thing he's in Utah, because that brother straight up committed a hate crime. And then, of course,
that's all assuming he actually called the cops, which really looks like he didn't.
I was able to recreate that screenshot he had in 2 seconds.
Exactly. Anyway, he created that whole narrative that he's afraid of us, so he would have an excuse to dodge us and not have to debate us, because he knows that he can't win in any kind of debate format. You know what I'm saying? Actually, I shouldn't say in any kind of debate format, because now we're getting like all these challenges where people want to have like Socratic timed debates by like lawyers. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I'll have a conversation with you. So maybe instead of using the word debate, I should start saying conversation. You know what I'm saying? But
to your point about individualism or being who you are, where am I allowed to come say what I think? It's here. It's not there. You know what I mean? But back to your point, the guy who wrote out the Catechisms of Candy, that's John McWhorter. He's a black man himself. Just this last week, Kimberly Crenshaw, the person who invented intersectionality and all that stuff, she put out a list of who are the enemies, and you looked at like the whole list of like enemies to what their ideology is. And somebody looked at it and said, that's a pretty diverse group right there. You know, it's like, it's got all sorts of different people. Like the whole entire group is full of all sorts of gay people and black people and Chinese people and you know.
And I think the biggest thing that I see in this is that they forget completely what grace is. They forget what real tolerance is. They forget that they need to love their neighbor. And in this weird effort to like equalize outcomes for everybody, they stop loving their neighbor, because even though that neighbor over there is somebody that they should love and care about, they're doing something that somehow supports this system that's oppressing other people. And it's like, no, guys, just love your neighbor where they're at. Get to know the people around you, listen to who they are, get to know them individually, and you're going to have a way better time of being able to actually help one another, I think. And so that's the thing.
You distilled it down pretty well there. I mean, it's all the religion without the repentance end of it. You know?
Yeah.
So on that note, I wanted to get into a little before you have to go. I got into a little bit of a fight this past week on Twitter.
Did you win, dog?
You can't
There's
win
no
or
winning.
lose.
Yeah.
But it was with them Desnats, because I tweeted a little thread saying, yeah, I don't think Columbus was a good guy. I don't think he was a dude in the Book of Mormon. And they're like, well, Russell M. Nelson and the prophets have said, are you disagreeing? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, you're gonna disagree with the prophet? I was like, yeah. I don't see it. I've done the research. I don't.
And here's the deal.
And
when
we're
they're
gonna
saying,
bake you cookies and love you and pray you and pray for you.
But when they're saying that the prophets have said this, 9 times out of 10, the prophets did not say the thing they're saying. So I'm like,
so I mean, it's the prophets being like, I think Columbus was the man, and like we had the vision of him in the temple. We did his temple work. Okay, we do everybody's temple work. Is it that?
Yeah.
Is it that cool? We did some people we shouldn't have done. Okay, so it's like, is it that cool? Anyway,
hey, God gets to decide that, Kwaku, not you.
So I'm just like, I don't think he was the guy. And there's an idea that, hey, the prophet said it, so you have to believe it. And I said, wait, sorry. I'm not a cultist. Okay, you might be, but I'm not. And then I brought up a quote from Brigham Young, like talking. He was like the Negro can't have the priesthood, and because he's cursed for this, and then
Man, I gotta write that down and take that out now. It's always
you.
you.
Negro.
Oh, you said it twice.
You can say that. That's not. It's like homosexual. It's not offensive.
Okay,
It's like,
well, we'll see.
It's a lot dated.
Let's throw in some more words that he needs to cut.
But then afterward, I put the quote from Downlight Choke saying, I looked at all the theories as to why there's a priesthood, and a priesthood ban. I couldn't confirm the truth of any of them. And I was like, hey, yeah, you can disagree. You can literally say, I do not come to the same conclusion that the prophet did. And by the way, Christopher Columbus, like that's on the Temple recommend. Do you cheat on your wife? No. All right. Do you believe in the? Okay. Do you believe Christopher Columbus was inspired in his journey? Like, it's not a thing. So I'm saying, hey, sorry, I do not have to. And the level of anger that I got from me just saying, yeah, I just don't think he was the guy. I was like, this is really weird. And so it brings me to this idea of like, okay, well, these people are acting extremely irrational, and this idea that like I stepping out of place, and so that's an annoying culture that comes with really what comes when you have any kind of online community, and when you can type something and not have to back it up in the fourth dimension as a human being. And so when it comes to the Mormon Stories podcast Facebook group and some of these ex-Mormon groups, I can't help but being an outsider looking in, seeing the exact same thing that I had with the Desnats.
Yeah.
And I want you to kind of share a little bit about that and your struggle with that.
Yeah.
You're going to take us home, bro. We got like 2 more minutes. Do it.
Okay. It's,
Well, we should go a little longer.
Okay, fine. Well,
we talk too much, and we need to get his.
As long as you need.
Jung called it an anti-odromia. Each extreme becomes its opposite. And
Whoa, hold on. That was super profound. You got to say that again. What was that again?
In anti-odromia, I think I don't know how it's pronounced. That's how it's written. But each extreme becomes its opposite. It's the same. They really are the same. Some people call it like horseshoe theory. Some people get irritated at horseshoe theory, but it's at the horseshoe, at the extremes, they're kind of closer together than the people who are all down here.
In politics, it's like the farther left and the farther right you go, you both end up authoritarian, right? Yeah.
But strangely enough, like you mentioned James Lindsay, he's done a lot of good work. He's teamed up a whole lot. He's an atheist. He was there during the Atheism Plus movement. He actually got into looking at all this stuff because he was looking into why that went so nuts. And he's kind of formed an alliance with the SBC. Well, some people at SBC, because some of the other people in the SBC are going woke too.
Southern Baptist Convention?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Michael Fallon, they've done several podcasts, and he's an atheist. But what I'm saying is like there seems to be like a congealing of people down at the bottom of the horseshoe, and at the extremes, each side of it can get as wild as you could imagine. And it definitely absolutely does. There was actually just an article that came out in the Atlantic, and it's the funniest thing in the world. It says, it turns out there can be left-wing authoritarianism. We didn't look,
Yeah, never mind the entire 20th century.
Yeah. But if you look at it, one of the persons who originally said the whole entire thing could not be left-wing authoritarianism was just some doctor named Horkheimer. He's one of the guys from the Frankfurt School. It was all just going off of that person. But that's one of the things when you look at Benson and you see that. I listened to Lynn's whole entire podcast with that professor who did a whole entire book about Benson being a Looney Tune, about Marxism and all that stuff. They just left out one major portion, and that's the New Left, that it was absolutely there. Like he wasn't telling tales out of school about all sorts of stuff. If people want to look into it, like look at Ryan Chapman's video on the New Left and see that like this stuff's just been everywhere. It's not crazy to say that it's there, but there's a whole game where they'll try to say that you're crazy for it. But if you listen to closely to like look at the Willie Hancock Company podcast that the Lynn and Larson just recently did, listen to the whole entire thing, listen to the end of it, and it just flips and goes into straight, almost kind of like Marxist socialist concepts and precepts. They even regurgitate some of the language from it and all that sorts of stuff, and part of it just goes. Like you say, is very frequently all they do is fulfill the prophecy. They just become the thing, and there does seem to be. I mean, to your point, even strangely enough, with some Mormons, and actually that's why I listen to you guys too. Some people who are still active LDS, and I think Quick is talking about this a whole lot. there's a lot of active LDS that start falling into the wokeness too, and even in the religious area and that sorts of stuff. And there might be like a whole different kind of like group. Like I might be closer to Quick and you guys than even my parents are, who, since Donald Trump came into office, are you supposed to bleep that word?
I don't know where YouTube stands on that. They'd lose a lot of money if they bleep that out, so I think it's still okay.
My parents are the sweetest, the best, the greatest, and all that sorts of stuff. They are just amazing, true blue Mormons. But when that happened, they watched Maddow for 4 years straight because they're like, oh, what do we do about this guy? And now it kind of slowly starts changing them into buying into the other side of stuff. Yeah, although they're still full-blown Mormons. You know?
And part of it that I think is one of the reasons behind this is because shame is a really powerful weapon. And that's what they use. They shame you into saying, oh, hey, if you think this way, then you are bad. They will label you in any way they can to make you think, oh, no, you need to think like us or you're a bad person. And everyone's like, oh, I'm a good person, so I'm going to think the way that they want us to, right? Rather than thinking for themselves, they use Satan's tool of shame, which sometimes gets used by people in the church too, right? That shouldn't be used that way.
Now we're actually going into other really cool podcast topics that I think we should jump on. Would you say we have put to rest my thesis that ex-Mormonism has become a bigger cult than Mormonism ever was? Or do you think that's still up for grabs?
Well, because Mormonism is different, and Utah Mormonism is different than Brazilian. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's why I get annoyed.
And LA Mormonism is the best.
I actually agree. But I mean, when Jana Reese,
it's not Mormonism. It's LA Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Okay.
And that I think is actually a really good distinction. The Mormonism part of it might be the culty part. Well, and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the gospel as it is restored, is totally fine. I think that is not culty at all. But you get some of the Mormonism culty people like. Well,
I mean, I actually agree in a sense there. I think that would be a cool podcast,
we should go over that.
When Jana Reese publishes the New Mormons, and it's a whole thing about here's how all the younger millennial and Gen Z Mormons are, and the samples are mostly Northwestern, white, kind of liberal Mormons. You're like, but that's not that's. I mean, this is our version of Huffington Post.
Yeah,
I want give me the real stuff. I don't want to be, and I'm using the term gaslight again, and I hate that term because I'm trying to actually use it. I don't feel like being lied to right now. Like don't like give me the actual. Go to Florida, all right. Go to England. Go to Brazil. Go to Mexico. Go interview the younger Mormons all over the world and get the consensus. But when you just give me the Cottonwood Heights kids who went to Olympus High School and are now at the University of Utah studying sociology, guess what? Yeah, it's gonna look a certain way, and I'm annoyed by that because I know that's a Trojan horse. That is, hey, we believe in wokeism, but we're from the Mormon tribe. These are our people, and we want to change and reform it.
Yeah.
And then I end up sitting on a couch with someone who was once an ex-Mormon king, and we agree more than I agree with Jana Reese, who's being published in Deseret Book.
You just straight up got called the king, dog.
You know what I'm saying?
That's like better than a queen.
I used to say, a long time ago I was post-Mormon, and then at some point, maybe 10 years ago, I started saying I'm a postmodern, so it's like almost not the same words, but it really was kind of some of those cringe philosophies that kind of helped push me out back in the day from going through the University of Utah, through a Spanish department that I only would have gone to because I spoke a Spanish-speaking mission. It was just I ended up getting the degrees in it, but I only started it as a undergrad, like most people. I mean, not an undergrad, but a minor, as most people do. And then I just kind of went through it, and then. Why am I reading Foucault and Derrida instead of Cervantes? We never read Cervantes, you know what I mean? And that's 20 years ago, and that stuff's only gotten worse. And that whole process of going through the University of Utah liberal arts school, to me, if you ask me which seemed more culty, that or the MTC, and there's some people who've been saying like the MTC, like Mormonism is not a cult, but the MTC part's kind of culty, like that moment. but there's a reason. Well, but I'm just saying that's like the moment where you're like, you've really got to be, we're 100% in this, What I mean?
Right. Yeah.
The place where you're 100% in this and you're put through that process as a youngster was liberal arts school at the University of Utah.
Yeah, it's almost the I swear when I won't say what class it is. I took a very, very liberal class at BYU, which we have those now. BYU is not.
Was it Sex and Gender? That's the textbook.
I won't say what it is.
Oh, that book was crazy. It was Man Hating 101. I called it.
No, but this was the endowment of the Utah County Left. It was the endowment session, but it was a semester long endowment session. And at the end, like you're literally like the conversations they're having, they're like, well, you guys literally have been gifted with this information now. You have been enlightened. And I'm like, I'm in a woke mystery school.
Yeah.
I'm literally in a woke mystery school right now.
Yeah.
And they gave us our prophetesses. I was assigned Simone de Beauvoir to go and like deconstruct her entire
I did all
life.
her.
And when I found out she was trying to get with little girls, I was like, hey, yeah, okay, she's a kind of.
She said,
Do you
need
guys
to get rid of the PEDO stigma?
Do you guys
And
know
it's
any?
like,
do you
nah,
guys
we
know
think that should
any
be stigmatized.
French translators? Because Jonathan Streeter's trying to translate from the French the petition by all those guys to get the
Jean-Paul
age limit.
Sartre and all those.
Yeah,
people.
and we found out that there's no good like translation at the bottom, and we've been trying to find like a good translator to put it out because he
Dude,
wants to
we're
put a
gonna do it.
podcast.
I know a
about
guy who is French and has very similar.
Yeah,
views
in
to
New
you,
York,
and
there's
I
like
could connect
one of the
you.
number one executives of
Haitians.
Sony is a quintuple linguist that is from La France.
Oh, that would
You know
be
what
sweet.
I'm saying? So we're going to do it. Okay, so then basically what Chris Hanna here is saying is that he recognizes the error of his ways, having left the Mormon church, will be rebaptized soon because wokeism has gotten so psycho and y'all are in a cult. So I'm just
Well, there's a ton of stuff about all the scriptures. I mean, I've gone through the whole entire Jordan Peterson world too about circling back and rethinking all those types of things and that sort of spell and going through Jung and all that. It's a journey. It's been a long journey. I'm definitely far closer back to the whole entire thing than away from it. I'm definitely
well,
not,
look, you're already dressed for church.
yeah.
So you know what I'm saying?
He's
He's
in a
got the nice shoes on.
tracksuit.
He's got the nice shoes on, man. So anyway, I want to hit.
We can do one more with Chris.
Oh,
Do
of
have
course,
time?
we can do
Okay.
two more. I really want to hit the second and the third topic before he has to bounce. They could be short and it'll be awesome.
Let's do it.
So this is Midnight Mormons. Say goodbye to Chris. Thank you, Brad and Kwaku. See you guys in the next podcast.